Welcome, welcome, welcome to this edition of Sagionic 1027. We are so glad that you decided to join us today. And I'm very, very eager for all of our viewers to be able to meet our special guest, East Coast guest today, that's originally born and raised over in Seattle, Washington. We are part of the same alma mater. And what a joy and a delight it has been to watch this woman grow and advance. She is definitely a forerunner. She's an entrepreneur and she's an innovator, and she is unstoppable. I'd like to read a little bit about her bio. Dr. Regina Hampton is the chief of breast surgery at Luminous Health Doctors, located in Community Medical Center, the first breast cancer in Prince George County. She is a board certified general surgeon who has focused her practice on breast health and breast cancer. Her former private practice, which was Signature Breast Care, was the first breast surgery practice in the county. Dr. Regina is also the co-founder and medical officer for the Breast Care for Washington, a nonprofit dedicated to providing access to mammograms regardless of the ability to pay. The facility is the first 3D mammogram facility east of the Anacosta in Ward, and which has the highest mortality rate for breast cancer in the District of Columbia. And what a tragedy it is. It devastates the whole family. Breast cancer does. She plays an active role at Luminous Health Doctors Community Medical Center. She is a past president of the medical staff, the first female president in the 40-year history of the hospital. Dr. Hampton was a director for a Susan G. Komen $1 million grant that provided mammograms for uninsured women. She also attended the Medical College of Pennsylvania and completed a general surgery residency at Howard University Hospital. She is a co-founder, yay, of Cherry Blossoms Intimates at Woodmore Town Center in Prince George County, Maryland. It is a bra and lingerie boutique offering custom prosthetics for breast cancer survivors and undergarments for all body shapes, sizes, and skin tones. This is a must because we won't name names, but there's other lingerie type outfits out there that aren't for every skin tone. And Lord knows we got a lot of skin tones out there. She is one of a few physicians in the country who is a certified mastectomy fitter. She is a member of the Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Inc. and the Washington, D.C. chapter of the Lynx Inc. Dr. Hampton was featured in the Washington Post regarding Black women and breast cancer. She has been featured in Essence magazine. She has appeared on National Public Radio, NPR, The Russ Parr Morning Show, and Buddy Check 9 and Andrea Roan. She is recognized as a top doctor in Washingtonian magazine. She is featured on Own Your Health for breast cancer awareness on the Oprah Winfrey Network. And might I add that Regina and I were cheerleaders together at Franklin High School in Seattle, Washington, and none of this surprises me. I am in awe and honored to have this opportunity to be able to interview Dr. Regina Hampton. I am
Oh, thank
I'm
you.
so proud of you, and none of it surprises me. So
Because I had a big mouth in high school.
no, stop it, stop it. No, you were a leader, but you weren't a leader as in a bossy leader. You were in a leader as in, a spirit of excellency. Okay, no favoritism. In like almost like a drill sergeant in calling people to attention. And there's work to be done, and we're going to get it done. We will put in the time. We will do what we need to do. But it wasn't so to see what you've accomplished and know what you were yet to accomplish, None of it surprises me.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
So I would like to know what do you think it's important? What do you think is of importance to pass along to our viewers on, having that determined mindset as a woman these days?
I think one of the things is you can't be afraid of hearing the word no. Because I think when you try to do new things, blaze new trails, and go places that people aren't used to going or are even comfortable going, you're going to hear the word no. And so I always encourage folks to, not take it personally, because I think sometimes as women, we take that no as it means that we're bad. No, maybe just the idea is not so great, or maybe it is great. And the people that are listening to it just don't know it yet. And so I think it's important to take that no and kind of sit with it for a few minutes and allow it to kind of speak to you in a more positive way, and then see what you might need to do to change the components of the no into yeses, or to say, you know what? I'm not going to wait for anyone to say yes. I'm going to say yes, and I'm just going to move forward. And it can be a hard and lonely road to travel, because many times people won't get what you're saying or where you're going. And I think one of those examples for me was early in my surgery career. I wanted to create an opportunity at my hospital for breast care, where we sit just outside of Washington, D.C. And there were a lot of other larger hospitals that were doing good breast care, and patients were leaving our area. And so I said, why can't we do this here? Now, I was one of the few female surgeons there. And so unfortunately, a lot of the men at that time, now we're talking about almost 20 years ago, said, oh, no, we don't need to do this. And we give good care. We can't, they're not doing anything better than we are. It's like, no, they are, because otherwise the patients would stay here. And so it really just took me just digging in and doing the right thing for the patient. And then the patient started to appreciate it. And then I said to them, hey, we're doing this. And if you want to be a part, you're welcome to come along, but you've got to follow these rules and follow this pathway. And a lot of them, said they didn't want to do it. So I left them behind.
That is so, I'm going to grab, oh, it's right here. That is so profound. One, I think I don't want to call it coincidental or ironic, but the last speaker that I interviewed today, because I have stacks that I interview in a day, he said to never take it personal. Never take the no personal. Don't absorb the no into your being. And so for it to be, you guys will go one day and the next day, you guys will interview right next to each other when I broadcast it to the world. But your statement reminded me, here's my book of the day. It's Dr. Caroline Leaf, which is Switch On Your Brain. Okay. I don't know if you know who Dr. Caroline Leaf is, but she is a neuropsychologist who studied neuropsychology in clinical for 25 years and has traveled the last 15 years around the world. But she proved as a woman neuropsychologist that the brain is neuroplastic. That was not popular when when that thought and the whole process came to her, but she knew she had to demand and push forward. And so here you are. And so how many of those, without names, of course, so how many actually decided to come alongside of you?
Not many. What it turned out to be, it was more patient driven, and some of the nursing staff who really got what I wanted to do. And there was actually a nurse who had really wanted to move in this direction, but she was told no by a lot of the male surgeons. And so, it was very few. Maybe there was maybe one other male surgeon who really got it and kind of came along with us. Otherwise, I was just sort of out there on my own. But, I felt like if I'm doing the right thing for the right people, I'm doing the same care as those in the surrounding hospitals, then I knew that we couldn't lose. And so, I think you bring up a good point about Dr. Leaf and her book. And I think that's where, I think men and women are different in business, and why, unfortunately, men are better in business. I think we're getting better. It's because of that personal thing that we do, and we intake and take that in. So men can walk into a business room, they can hash it out, they can, go back and forth on an issue. And at the end of the meeting, they're like, hey, let's go grab a beer. Let's go, grab coffee together. And women, we hold on to that. And so it's learning how to turn that on and off. And I think there's a way that I think women can do it even a little more craftily, because I think those emotions are important. But I think it's learning how to kind of control them so that you can use them at the right moment. And of course, I always say, never let them see you sweat. There are just times where, I sat in a room or meeting and someone just sort of, tore into my idea, and I just sort of kept the face there until I got out of that room and down into the bathroom. And I was like, and those things are going to happen. And I think it's okay for those things to happen. But I think it's, as women, it's just figuring out how we can do it in the way that is unique to us. And so that we're seen and that we're heard. And again, they're not always going to listen to you at the time, but they'll turn around later. I think years later, now that we got the center up and running, we're recognized as one of the top centers in the area. And so people are recognizing it. And, all those old guys have retired now, so I don't have to worry about them.
And it's so important because it's in essence, you are mothering a movement. And so the word Sagionic means movement by movement in time, right? Sagion is wisdom carrier, which is you, and that's why you're on this program today, but movement by movement. And so you were compelled. What is it that drove you? Because you could have picked many fields, honestly. You could have picked many fields. So what is it that drove you this direction in the medical industry?
I think it picked me. When I was in medical school, I thought, I'll do pediatrics or family practice. And you always think, as a woman, you can't do these, things like surgery and orthopedics because you want to have family. And, at that time when I was training, they were like, well, some of these professions, it's hard to have a family and do this. And so luckily I started to meet other female surgeons who said, listen, there's a lot of ways that you can be a surgeon. You could, be in active clinical practice. You could be in an academic practice. I met a wonderful woman. I don't remember her name, but she was in private practice, and she did surgery 2 days a week, and she did office 2 days a week. And then she took the day off so that she could spend time with her family. And I thought, oh, now none of the men were doing that. So it was just a different way to think about it. And she said, you know what? This is important to me. I'm still a surgeon. And so it really got me thinking. And so as I started to talk to more people, even men, and they started to encourage me, and I thought, well, maybe the surgery thing I can do. And I also discovered that I love working with my hands. So when I did pediatrics, family practice, all those, I was like, I'm a little bored. I need to do something with my hands. And then it was third year of medical school. I was rotating at a small community hospital, and everyone was busy. And it was the chair of surgery who had a case. He said, hey, all the residents are busy. Why don't you come with me and do this case? We have an appendix to take out. And I said, okay. So I just went in there, and I'm there, kind of doing my thing. And he handed me the scalpel. And I said, sir, I'm a third year medical student. He was like, well, you're going to do your first appendix today. And I was like, oh my gosh. And so once I did that, it was like, oh, this is it. And so then that just started me on my path and my journey.
You know, here again, I think it was my first interview today. And the person said it was in me. It was in me. So for you to say it chose me, it was in you. I've often wondered, you know how pictures will flash up in your mind, or you get this feeling of deja vu, right? There was this one day a couple of years ago. I was going for a drive, and I saw one of these flash pictures. So it almost looked like a singular muscle. Just, oh, look at this. We're going to use these. These are great. It was a singular muscle. As I don't even know if my toothpick can come out clear in my picture. Anyways, there was a singular muscle on this side and singular muscle on this side, and both of them were cauterized on the end. And in my mind, I don't hear conversations out loud, but in my mind, I'm like, huh, that's interesting, Lord. What is that? And then it was like I saw the hand of God and a soldering tool. And he was soldering these two singular muscles together. And the thought came to me that, so neuropsychologists say, there's some that say we don't use all of our brain, right? There's only so much of our brain that we use. But let's take another twist. What if everything we were going to walk out in life was downloaded into one compartment in our brain? And when it was time to launch that, these neurons came together and ding, a thought came to your mind. And so it would almost be like there was extra kennel to put on the fire to no, let's see. We've had dogs barking in the background. We've had dogs wanting in and out of the house. We've had it all, Regina, Dr. Regina. But so when it's in you, it is that, it's this driving force within you. Because let's get real. You're a female, right? You were up against whatever list you want to, denote, right? And you had to say, I'm moving forward. So tell us about, and then you go to say, hey, let's launch this cherry blossom, right? So it's not, and that's why I said I can't wait for what else is going to happen in your life, because you will not stop when something comes up in your mind. But share with us some of those, man, this is needed. And especially women need to know this. How to not just accept you can't do this.
Yeah, so it's interesting. People kind of tried to turn me away from doing cherry blossom. I had the idea, but just didn't know how I would do it because I had so many other things going on. And I think God just brings people to you when you least expect it. So I'm at a breast cancer walk and happened to meet my now business partner. And we just had a great chat. I can't really explain it, in that you just feel comfortable with someone. You never met them before. And so I just started talking about this idea to do this store. And she said, oh, well, you might consider doing this. You might consider doing that. Turns out she had retail experience at where from Seattle? Nordstrom. So as a Seattle girl, it's like, oh, if you worked at Nordstrom, then, we don't need to say anything else, because we know Nordstrom has one of the top management training programs and customer service programs, I think, in the world. So, and what's interesting is, we kind of got through the end of the walk, and then we almost got separated. And I thought, wait, hold on, we got to exchange information. So we did end up exchanging information and had conversations and talks. And, here we are a few years later. And it's interesting because where I wanted to put the store, I knew that there wasn't anything in this area like it. And of course, people said, oh, well, you should put it in Washington, D.C. You should put it in Howard County. You should put it in Annapolis County, Anne Arundel County, which are all counties surrounding the county where I live and work. And I said, but there are women here who need this service. Why should they have to travel? And it was one day I was writing an order for a patient. She had had a mastectomy, didn't do reconstruction. And I said to her, I said, well, here's an order. You can go to this place. It's down in Waldorf. It was about 25 miles away. And she said, well, I don't drive. And in order for me to get there, someone will have to take off a whole day of work just to take me there. And I just paused like, oh, now that's a problem. And so that really led me on the journey of, trying to solve that problem. And even though there were, other nameless lingerie stores, I just don't think that they were meeting the needs of what I call us as real women, who, we've had kids, we've ate a few too many bonbons, COVID got us. And so just finding good fitting lingerie and even finding stuff that makes us feel beautiful, I felt like no one was really addressing that need. And so then I thought, well, why do the women who want beautiful lingerie have to shop at one store? Why, if you have one or both breasts missing, you have to shop at a different store? Why can't we all shop in one store? And so that just brought on the idea for us to do Cherry Blossom Intimates and make it really a one-stop shop for all women. And it's just been so beautiful to see generations of women come and shop together, or a breast cancer survivor can shop with her friends who are not survivors. And I think the really exciting thing is to be able to offer the breast cancer items in different skin tones, because I think we all have different shadings. Typically prosthetics are offered in sort of a peach or pink or a brown color. And it's like, no one's really peach or pink and no one's just brown. We've got different tones and shades. So it's so fun to be able to offer something that really I can match anyone's skin tone. I don't care how light, bright, white they are, and I don't care how brown, dark, and chocolate they are. And everyone in between, we can match their skin tone, which is just a lot of fun and really gives those patients that confidence that they need and want to go out into the world and feel good and beautiful like the rest of us.
That is so good. And my mind is taken, had you not come from Franklin that had every tone, like all the shades, right? Because when Regina and I went to school, the Seattle Public School District, they purposely had schools set up to make sure we had a certain number of certain tones in every school district, and had and I just think of, like, if you said it was in you, so then if you look back, all the different environments you were put in, you were being set up. You were being set up so that you could walk out and accomplish this, and I think women really need to know, if I just think of, any woman, whether you're a religious woman or not, if you read Proverbs 31, it talks about the woman. And in there it says, she considers a merchant ship and she buys it. I have that written in my kitchen. I said, Steve, your wife is an entrepreneur, because it is written in my DNA. She considers a merchant ship and she buys it. Okay. So I would like you to picture a like story. I was on assignment last year, and straight out the gates, it was.
I'm gonna say, I'm sorry, you're making me kind of tear up, because
I know
it just kind of really struck me. I think of how we grew up in Seattle with everyone. I always think, well, doesn't everybody have Asian friends? Doesn't everybody have white friends? Doesn't everyone have Latino friends? And it just, I guess I'm just sort of amazed, because I never thought of it because it was normal for us. But I think we grew up, and I guess we should Seattle public school. I think if all schools could be like our schools, think of how much love there would just be in the world. So I'm grateful. I'm just grateful.
and it almost makes you wonder, and this do we need to do such things again that were done then, right? So you know how styles repeat themselves, right?
Yeah.
It was just part of life, right? It was part of
Yeah.
life, and it was good, and and I even think of, people that were of our age, right, and our year, and how there are so many fierce leaders, like like no mess around, I'm getting this done, right? And maybe other years would say that, but I think ours was special.
I do too. Woohoo, 86. Go
Yeah.
Quakers. Yeah. But I think, I think what Seattle Public Schools, and I think that's so key. And I'm really glad you brought that up, because I think we need more of that in the world. I feel like that experience really helped me. And so there have been times when I've walked into rooms where I'm the only Black person in the room, the only woman in the room. I can go to an Asian event, and it's just one of those, I can kind of walk anywhere and feel comfortable. And not a lot of people can do that. But I just am really appreciative of all those experiences. And I think those really help me to be able to walk into these different situations and just feel comfortable and confident and say, you know what, no one here looks like me, but hey, that person looks friendly, I'm going to go over. And I think when you learn that as a young adult and a young child, I think that helps you move in the world. And I think, again, I think that's how we can spread love, is being exposure and understanding, you know what, that person over there is eating something different than me, but okay, I'm just going to ask them a question, maybe get a taste of it and learn something new. So thank you, Seattle, for that wonderful experience.
One of my dear friends that I'm going to wind up interviewing, her stage name is Virtuous, and her first name is Kaya Rice. You'll instantly fall in love with her. But Virtuous, Kaya Rice, she has a song, and it's called "Love Is in the Air," Heir, and it is a cut, and she's a forerunner. She is a forerunner in the music industry. Dear friend of mine, and think of this, okay? So in essence, it was love that compelled you to do what you're doing. You know,
Absolutely.
love, and would you say that not only did love compel you, but love sustains you to
Yeah,
take?
I
Go ahead.
absolutely. I always say, you got to do it and have the passion for it. And then everything else will come behind it. But if you lead with love, then, nothing else matters. And then you end up just being good at what you're doing, being successful, and always, I think, just giving to others and thinking, what can I do for just someone else? And again, I think these are lessons that, really need to be shouted through the world. And I think that's the key to, you know, health, wellness, success, is just leading with love and leading with kindness.
Our one of our mottos is, those who refresh others will they themselves be refreshed, and that's what your life has emanated. How do you pour into others in society? How do you lead by example in society? How do you step into a room as an example to walk, to move forward, to initiate through love? Through It's almost like you are a, oh my gosh, you are the glacier. You're the strength of a glacier. Oh, I could cry what I'm seeing. You are the strength of a glacier, and if you think of the magnitude, the multitude of a glacier, it's immovable. And then you may have this, and right now, oh, this is so beautiful. The mountain, or the reconstructing of the uniqueness of a woman and the value of her being, is what we see now. But what we're going to see in the future will be of great magnificence like the mountains of the world. And so share, if you go back to, if somebody was to introspectively look inside of themselves, right? Help women to, or men, help people to see, how do you move what's already in there? How do you work with what's already in there? That resounding drive. How do you work with that? How do you say yes to what's in you?
I think you have to learn to listen to that inner voice. And I think sometimes that's hard because inside is saying yes, but you're hearing all these folks on the outside and they're in this ear and that ear telling you no. And so I think it's trying to um, push through all the no's to be able to hear your yes. And realizing again, sometimes through the journey, you're not going to get that validation that you think you should get as you're moving through it, and realize that's okay, because sometimes people, they don't get it yet. They're just not there. And so I think you have to really, I think, not look for that validation early on. I mean, I don't know, I never try and look for validation because I'm one of those, like, I never like to be disappointed if I can help it. And so it's really just kind of pushing through that idea. And as you start to push through, then people are like, oh, wait. Oh, yeah, I'm going to jump on the bandwagon now. It's like, well, where were you 5 years ago? But but it's really just keeping and pushing and just moving forward, and just trying to center yourself so that your voice is louder than everybody else's voice, and realize everybody's not going to hear the voice, but that's okay, that you hear it and it's going to help propel and push you forward. God hears it, and that's all that matters.
We could even go back to Julie Andrews on The Hills Are Alive at The Sound of Music, because she was on top of a mountain.
I love it.
If we think of this, that I remember one of the, I call my projects assignments. Okay. And I was on an assignment because I'd gotten the download, upload, inner voice, this, oh, right here, go do this, right? So I'm like, okay, I just, okay, let's go. And it was thousands of miles was this particular project. And at the very onset of it, I was greeted with a local personnel who said, we won't promote you because you're a woman. And I just thought in my mind, did he just really say that? Right? But watch this, because I was not sent on this assignment by that voice that spoke to me. I was sent on this assignment, or that was placed in me, in Dr. Regina's words, right? It was in me. Well, at the end of this assignment, there was even more special words that were communicated to me. But the person who was the leader, overseer of this assignment, which I wasn't even like directly connected because I was just a freelancer coming in, came up to me and said, way to be a forerunner, Shawn. It's not always easy. And I didn't need that, but yet it sure was nice to hear it. That,
yeah.
Because when you have that inner drive, right, the no's are kind of like, what, Snoopy? Right? But like, what I really appreciate what you said, they don't know. They don't know, they can't see it, right? And so we don't very well want to shame those that can't see it, as much as own the responsibility to walk out what's needed.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think it can be hard when you're, one of those people who is a visionary and who can think ahead and can look far enough. Some people can't look that far, and you just have to kind of give them grace to say, okay, well, thank you. And just thank you. Moving on.
Oh, this is
Duly noted.
this is so funny. I'm not, and the person knows if they ever should watch this video how much I love them, right? But at the very beginning of this project, when it was being downloaded to me, I was called to a boardroom in my own office, right? And I got the download upload. But I contacted someone and I said, hey, so and so, can you help me do this project? And he said, I'm sorry, to be honest with you, Shawn, your brain thinks way too fast for me. and
Well,
but
thank
but
you.
but I had to and I love this person, but then I realized that's correct. So then I had to pull myself back, and it was like my brain thinks like this, right? And so then it was just like there was a lot of just sitting, receiving, sitting and receiving, sitting and receiving, right? And until it all formulated or the pieces presented themselves so that gave me what I needed in order to walk it out. And so, besides the co-founder, share with us some of the more of those pieces that came together for Cherry Blossom, because Cherry Blossoms isn't just going to remain there. Cherry Blossoms is going to go bam, like you see those little balloons on the Google Maps pop up. Cherry Blossoms is going to do that because only one voice was needed to propel the movement.
I think something that was very important early on as my business partner and I were kind of formulating the ideas is, you know, I don't think either one of us were afraid to let the other shine. And sometimes that can be hard for people to do that in partnerships. And for me, I felt like because she was younger than me, I wanted her to shine. Like I wanted her to, there were times where people would call for interviews and I would say, no, let her do it. And people are like, well, why aren't you doing it? It's like, well, no, because if she's highlighted, then I'm highlighted. If I'm highlighted, she's highlighted. And I think it's important and that's why I think a lot of kind of partnerships don't work because everyone wants to be highlighted when it's like, well, no, you can have two spotlights. Why not? Or there are times when my spotlight's off and hers is on, and hers is off and mine is on. And it's okay. I think of it as it's all for the good of the company. So much so that, she's now the CEO of the company. And it just made sense because, she committed to do this full time, which was huge for her to just take that chance on this idea that we had. And so, again, I think it's always about giving and it's always about give and take. And I think it's always about, you don't always have to be in the direct spotlight to get any of the shine. And I think that's hard for a lot of people to understand. I think ego stands in the way for a lot of us and why that's hard to do. And then that kind of takes me back to this was back early in practice. People invited me to get on committees and things, and I would give ideas in the meetings, and people would automatically shut them down. And it was this older, wiser doctor who said, listen, they're not going to take your ideas because you're female, but you have great ideas. He said, so if there are ideas that you just really feel passionate about, let me know. I'm happy to, carry those forward. And then once they say yes, then you take over and kind of push it through. And so I try and do that for others now. And that, if I see they're having trouble, or I'll be the one to stand up in a meeting and say, no, 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 let's hear what that person over there has to say. Or to call out someone who's not speaking, because many times they may have the best ideas in the room, but because they feel intimidated. And so I always say, it's okay to let others shine. And that is being successful as well as those who are standing in the spotlight. And so I think that's a real important lesson that I learned, and I carry that with me. And then I try and spread that to others and really try to allow others to shine.
I love Priscilla Schreier, but I would say that Dr. Regina is neck and neck right there with Priscilla Schreier in my book right now. So I want to put a double meaning on what you just shared. So one, a leader leads by helping to grow up other leaders. Okay, that's how leaders lead. A good leader, an integral leader, leads by helping to grow up other leaders. Okay, if I think of, I'm going to call it biblical terminology, that would be an apostolic anointing. An apostolic anointing is an overseer to rise up other leaders. And that has always been you. It's always been you. And I think it's like, America, take note, global leaders, take note. Don't push out of the way to try to be in the highlight. Instead, how do you go through? It's almost like strengthening the foundation of a company, right? You picture, okay, let's just look at a high rise. Okay, coming from Seattle, I live in Portland. You're in the DC neighborhood, right? You don't just instantly go up without securing the rebar, right? So as the rebar is secured on every level, on every corner post, that enables the high rise to go up. So now that you guys are where you are in Maryland, you have secured it. You have made it secure, not only for the community of women, but also for the company, right? Okay, wait, it's kind of like, like you're married, I'm married, right? It's kind of like this inner catechismic meshing of how are we going to let this strength be the lead, and this, how do you find this balance, right? And people who say they find the balance right away, they're lying, right? So how do you find that balance, right? How do you find the balance? But once it's level, right, then the building happens, right? So you guys have done this, and that's why I see a pin. That's what it's called, a pin drop in Google Map land, right? A pin drop, pin drop, pin drop, pin drop, pin drop, pin drop. And when we walk away from this, I'm going to carry your voice into the States. How do we like where's it at? Where's it going to geographically located? So look out, because thoughts are going to come your direction. Okay, now I want you guys to go launch in this state. Now I want you to launch in this state. But you're going to be brought into the eye gate, ear gate, mouth gate of like-minded individuals in different states who will say, yes, put it here. Yes, put it here. Yes, put it here. Because really, this is whole health for women.
Absolutely. I receive it.
Wow. Wow. So tell us about something. Okay, being a mom, right? Being a wife. So tell us a little bit about balancing that high demand career, balancing being a business owner, and balancing home life. You got, more than just, you got your son, and, so share a little bit about that fine line in bringing that balance.
So, I'm kind of, that brings me to just my family and how my family started. I think one of those lessons that we've just been talking about is you just have to be open to receive what's there. And I know sometimes we all have this thought and this dream about how our business is going to turn out, how our life is going to turn out, how our family is going to turn out. And you never know what twist and turn you have ahead of you. So I'm going to kind of share a little story about my son. So, I finished medical school. I get together with my husband. We had kind of dated years ago, decide we're going to get married. And soon after we got married, I found out that I had gone through early menopause. And then I just kind of paused and said, what do I do now? And once I said, I'm just going to be open to ideas, opportunities, however motherhood may come to me. And one day I was in my office and talking to my now former office manager, but still a great friend. And her daughter had come home during the holiday, and they found out that she was pregnant. And they said, well, we're not quite sure what we should do because we don't think she's ready. We're not ready. And I said, huh. So I realized that person was brought to my life. I thought she was there to help me with my practice, but she was there to bring my son um, to me. And so I ended up adopting the young woman's child, who's now my child, who's our child, because I consider her a part of our family as well. And that was, again, people were saying, oh no, you shouldn't do an open adoption. And what happens? She knows where you live. What if she comes to the house and decides, and I'm like, okay, people really, and I also just decided early on that my son was always going to know, and she was always going to have an open door to our home and our family. And now it's 13 years later, and he's 13, taller than me now, but he has a great relationship with me and my husband, but he also has a great relationship with his birth mom and her family. And so what that taught me is you have to just let life be what it's going to be and not be embarrassed and not be ashamed. Um, and again, what did we say earlier? Love, just about love. And so I'm blessed that I have a, uh, a husband who really understands all these different things. And I'm like you, my brain's always talking about something new. And he's just been very supportive. His family's been supportive. My son has been supportive. And so, I'm trying to get better at sort of stepping back and being able to do more self-care and do things for me and my family and spend that time together. But I think in personal and in business, it's just trying to lead with love. And I think something that we as women don't do is pointing that love inward first and being a little selfish with that, and then giving it to the rest of our family, our businesses, our partners, and all of those things. But I think a woman's self-love and selfish love is one of the best gifts that we can give ourselves.
That now I got to go back because I didn't think I was going to be a wreck of tears today. I am. I am. I have to say this because I have a photographic memory. And so every face that I went to high school with, I can see it. I can see the people. And as the years have gone by, I've blessed everybody. And so today is like a special thing for me to say, look what happened with this beautiful woman's life. But you also, in what you've done with your child's life, with your son's life, right? You've actually said, I refuse to function in fear. Because perfect love casts out all fear. And as you yielded to love's going to win, love's going to win, love's going to win, love's going to win. And this is how it happened. This is the real story. We don't need to hide it. We don't need to fill in the blanks, right?
Yeah.
Because conception is love. Conception, we can't do it, right? As women, we can't. I've often thought of this, that if you were to put a glass belly on a woman, put a glass belly on her, right? And you were to show the alien that was grown in you, right? We would hit the abort mission, right? But it's all intricately done in love. The dividing, divide, and then it all comes together as this beautiful human being, right? And
Yeah.
what you're sharing with people screams, fear never wins. Love always does. And
Absolutely.
I almost think for creatives, right? Because we're creatives, entrepreneurial minds, right? I almost think we need to have a support group for the men who are married, or for those who are married to creatives, right? Attached to creatives, those who are attached to creatives, because our minds don't stop. But, if we think of self care that you spoke of, everybody's self care is going to look different, right?
Mhm.
So what does self care look like to you?
For me, it's just, kind of switching off the electronics, and trying to get back into reading, or just watching a good movie, or going out and taking my son to go do something fun, go to get a massage, enjoy a nice dinner with my husband. We just went, I had to do a speaking engagement last week. And so just my husband and I went, and that was really nice. My son was upset with us. He's like, well, why can't I go? Why is it only a mommy and daddy trip? It's like, because it's a mommy and daddy trip. So that was really nice. It was a nice getaway. So, I think just trying to just take time wherever you can get it. And sometimes it's just not doing anything, getting a cup of tea and just kind of sitting on the back porch and enjoying nature.
That's really good because that has to do with whole health. Whole health. You can't just, I think there's a terminology that says like burning the candle at both ends or something, burning the wick at both ends or something out there like that, right? And
Yeah.
you have to nourish your body, and I just, well, what are some more important? I'm just overwhelmed. I'm overwhelmed in the space of love right now. Just hearing the beauty of how your life has unfolded, will continue to unfold. So what is like, when you thought about this interview, I really want viewers to know this. This is an important component in whether it be being a forerunner, an innovator, what is that just like, I've got to share this.
I think it's also just letting go of this idea of everything has to be perfect. I just say, what is that? And who wants to be that? And just realizing, we're all different and unique for a reason. And we may not understand the person next to us, their uniqueness, but I think just keeping an open mind. And I think that's really one thing, is just being open. And, I often tell my son, like, we'll go grab something, and I'll say, oh, why don't you try? That looks like, I was like, well, just try it. Just be open to try it. If you try it and you don't like it, then you don't have to eat it again. But you never know what you're going to discover. So, I think as I've just moved through life, and I think that's what my childhood in Seattle has always just taught me, just to be open. Because if you're closed off, I think you are presenting yourself from being open to new opportunities, to new people, new foods, new adventures. And realize every opportunity may not always turn out the way that you want it, but look at it as, this is experience. It's gonna help to guide me. It may not serve me right now, but sometime in the future, it's going to be of service to me. And I'm going to remember this moment and use it in that future moment. And I think as women, we just have to give ourselves grace, that we don't need to be perfect. We just have to be the best self that we can be. And guess what? It takes time to figure out what that is. Because I think back in our cheerleading days, I didn't know what that was.
You guys got to understand this, so it's like Ezel chickens came from where we went to school, and like leaders, like extreme leaders that are around the world now, came from where we went to high school. And it was just beautiful, down to, you got Mr. Sato, you've got the, who was a weightlifter teacher, he and Sato, you just got all these different people. We were surrounded by these massive people that just poured and sewed into this body of students. Just profound. Um, and the grace is a huge factor, right? And so if I think of, I'm not 30, but at 54, it took me decades to love myself. It's just terrible how long it takes a woman to
It
accept
does.
herself, right? But I think it's important for women to learn to accept themselves, right? Instead of looking in the mirror and picking yourself apart, right? How do you begin to look in the mirror and think, wow, I really like that about myself? I really like that about myself, right? Because I think, unfortunately, in different levels in society, or under the umbrella of religiosity, which I don't even like using that word, right? We are taught this farce that you can't be proud of something because pride is bad. But if Jillian does something that you are like, oh my gosh, he worked so hard to accomplish that, you're not going to say, well, don't be proud of yourself, Jillian. I'm just a humble servant. No, you're going to want to celebrate with Jillian, right? And you're also going to want him to celebrate with his accomplishments because it was hard work.
Absolutely.
So can you share like that first moment of, I did it, I did it with us?
Um, probably opening the store, because it was a huge endeavor, an accomplishment. And there was a great story. We were preparing to open. We still had like maybe an hour and a half before we're opening. We're running around, putting stuff, dusting stuff off. And this lady came in, she just banged on the door. And we're like, we're not open yet. We're not open yet. So I said, well, let me go to the door. So we went to the door and she said, hi, I know you guys aren't open yet, but I'm a breast cancer survivor. I'm getting ready to start chemotherapy. I won't have my surgery till later, but I just wanted to come by and say thank you all for being here in our community, and I'll be back. And what that did to my business partner and I, because we're doubting ourselves, like, oh my God, what are we doing? We've got the store, we've got rent, we've got employees, and we just looked at each other and said, yeah, that's why we did it. That woman was sent there to just give us that, yep, kiddos, y'all are doing the right thing, and you all are there to serve women. And so that was just really just a very proud and impactful moment for me. And I still get choked up every time I think about that moment.
You had a choice. You could have said, we're too busy. But with your interpersonal skills, right, to always prefer somebody else, to want other people to be heard, is what caused you to open that door. And that just keeps giving and giving and giving and giving. And I will tell you that I'm like, whoosh, once this camera ends, we'll just tell our viewers a sneak peek. I was contacted by somebody yesterday who was telling me some things. And I thought to myself, I wonder why this person is downloading all this behind the scenes info to me. And I actually thought, perhaps this person should make this decision. But instead, I just thought, let me just cover this woman. I'll pray over this woman, right? And right now, during this interview, I'm like, oh my gosh, that venue is going to be the first West Coast that's going to offer the cherry blossom intimate attire.
Oh,
And
wow.
so I'm about to leave our viewers hanging because we're at 59 minutes. And so if we were filled with the crowd, which we are, I would say, Dr. Regina Hampton, I am beyond proud of you. You are like, oh, one of the heroes to me. Forget Shadrach,
Oh,
Meshach, and Abednego. It is like my heart is flowing with rivers of how proud I am of you.
oh, thank you. Well, thank you, because you're part of my foundation, sort of back in the day. We were kind of young gals running around, and your mom running around with us. Uh, it's just amazing at how we've all, grown and blossomed.
No pun intended there. Cherry blossomed, right? You know. So I just want to thank you, and I want to thank our viewers for coming to this episode of Sagionic 1027. And until our next episode, may the Lord bless you, may the Lord keep you, may the Lord make his face to shine upon thee. Blessings. Bye.